the change that you need to make. Physical health and mental health correlate with one another. Generally somebody who's fit, who's healthy, they're generally going to be mentally healthy as well. Be accessible to anyone, anywhere in the world. I will get you in the best shape of your life.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Unscripted Stories. Today's guest is someone very, very special, someone who's very successful in their career. He does a lot of lifestyle coaching, diet, nutrition. If you're someone that wants to lose a lot of weight or even just change their lifestyle, make it better than what it already is, have an improvement, he is the man. He's competed in professional bodybuilding. He's coached hundreds of people worldwide. So not just in the UK, guys, we're talking about worldwide. He's very successful. His company is called Strictly Body Gains. He's known as Saqib, and I'm not gonna lie to you, he inspires me, he motivates me, and I really, really hope in today's episode he's able to motivate you guys. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Real stories, real moments, real people. Welcome to Unscripted Stories. Saqib, thank you very much for joining us today, man.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's all right, man. I appreciate you driving all this way up here in Leeds.
No, it's absolute pleasure.
It's a bit manic, but yeah, Saqib, so I want to kickstart this podcast mainly about yourself first. So how you sort of started off with Strictly Body Gains, what's your journey? What led you to get to this point in your life right now?
Strictly Body Gains itself started off in 2017, so 7 years. 7 years in January, alhamdulillah, and the biggest reason as to why it started, even prior to that, was I've always been into health, fitness, played sports from a young age, and then even like 3 or 4 years prior to that, there was an instance where if people wanted to get into shape or wanted to get healthy, they'd come to me for like nutrition advice, training advice. And it was about 2016, 2017 where I thought, I'll actually turn it into a business and try and rather than helping people on a local level, only in Huddersfield, for example, try and get a bit more of an outreach. Alhamdulillah, it was something that I enjoyed, something that I was good at, and I've been able to get a lot of people, everyday people into shape. So that was the reason why it initially kind of started off, and then alhamdulillah from 2017 up to 2024 now it's mashallah grown pretty much year on year. But I think the biggest time that it grew was probably over COVID time. So 2020 over 2022, so that 2 year period is probably where it grew the most. And I think it was just more, it highlighted and showcased that you don't necessarily need a gym to get into shape. You can do it from home using minimal equipment, and just focusing on what you have got access to. So it might be like body weight exercises, working out from the park, things like that. So again, alhamdulillah, that journey's been a challenging journey. It's been an enjoyable journey, but alhamdulillah, it's been a really, really good journey over the last 7 years.
I remember seeing your growth in 2020 when it was lockdown. So for myself, I wasn't really working. I just sat at home. I started cooking actually. So I spent more time cooking, less time doing dentistry. But I remember, mashallah, seeing your growth, like, your videos, your content just boosting. Did you sort of wake up one day and thought, right, I need to spend a bit more time on this? Or did you just think, what, I just want to do it for fun and then just see what happens with it?
To be fair, I think obviously COVID time, I think a lot of people focused on things that they probably didn't focus on as much, leading up to that. Obviously, a lot more people had a lot more time in their hands. We had, where people were, essentially prisoners in their own home. So obviously we had times where we were unable to, in theory, kind of leave the house, and unless it was an emergency and things like that. So yeah, I think in terms of, looking at focusing on it, there wasn't an active time where I thought, I'm going to go 100% on it. It was just more a natural thing that kind of transpired in that time period. But I think, like I said, it was just more to the thing that stood out for me, I think, compared to maybe other people at the time, was the fact that a lot of people were saying that you can't work out, you can't get healthy, you can't get fit without going to the gym. And I think we're just trying to break that stereotype, say, right, do you know what, you can still get fit, you still get healthy, you still can get in the best shape of your life. And I tried to, rather than telling people, I tried to use myself as an example to say, right, do you know what? And at that time as well, I was actually started my competition prep as well. So that really highlighted what you can actually achieve. And alhamdulillah, over that time period, I was actually in the best shape of my life in COVID time with, I think I had a set of dumbbells, barbell, which my neighbour lent me, and some resistance bands, which were, I think, 15-20 quid from Amazon at the time. So yeah, I think in that time period during COVID in particular, I think it wasn't an active focus on it. It just happened naturally.
Do you think people just come up with an excuse when it comes to that, like, oh, it's COVID and I can't train? Or do you think that it was genuinely a difficult period to actually train? Because you showed that it's not actually impossible.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people that it broke the stereotype in the sense that a lot of people thought you had to go to the gym to be fit and healthy. And I think still people still had it in their mind that they had to go to the gym. But I think for me, it was just more to showcase that, you don't necessarily have to go to the gym. You can do it from home. I had a lot of clients that signed up from Birmingham to Dubai to Qatar to Australia, Germany, where it just showed that, based on the equipment that you have, obviously based on the consultation, I'll advise a training program based on the equipment that they had. For some people, it might just be resistance bands. For some people, it might have just been access to a local park. For some others, they would just literally had one program where it was just based around their children's activities. And that, alhamdulillah, managed to get a young lady into shape. I think she was based in Birmingham. So that's again, it just shows, rather than whinging and, being negative about it, just focus on what you can control. And that was just, within your own bounds.
No, it's wicked. I remember you were posting something about, I think there's a young mum with a kid and who was struggling to, train. Maybe she was really busy, like looking after the little one. And then you created something specific for her
100%.
where she could engage in, like, I don't know, an activity, but
Yeah,
also do it with her son.
100%.
I remember looking and thinking, I was like, you know what? It's actually easier said than done, in terms of something like that. But all they needed is someone to just look at their life from an outside perspective and then just break it down to them, and you did that so well.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you're in that cycle yourself, it's very difficult to take a step back and look at it from a holistic level, look at it from a macro level to say, right, do you know what? These are things where I might need to make changes. And I think sometimes when you have a second opinion on things, that's generally where somebody can point in the right direction. When you're stuck in that cycle, stuck in that rut, it's very difficult to pinpoint the change that you need to make. Sometimes you just need a second ear or a second set of eyes to say, right, do you know what? Asif or whoever else, these are the changes that you need to make. This is the changes that you need to make to your nutrition. These are the changes that you need to make to your sleep, your water, your training program, your activity with your children. And on the back of that as well, it's not necessarily just getting into shape, but it's also, for example, in her instance, it was increasing the bond that she had with the child as well. Because like I say, it was quality time spent. She also got into great shape. Her child, I presume, would have appreciated the fact that her mum was spending more time with him. So it's a win-win, all around from that perspective.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. That I remember me, obviously, as a dentist, wasn't really working a lot. And I kept coming out with excuses. I was like, nah, I'm not going to train. Then I went to, I think some place in like Nottingham or something like that, to go pick up some weights. Picked it up, set the whole gym up. Like a week later, never used it again. So it's been gathering dust since. And I feel like, I don't know, is it me just as a dentist? Are all dentists the same? Or is it, is it just like this generation, we're just getting a little bit slack with things? Or do I actually have an excuse that I'm a healthcare professional and I genuinely am a bit stressed with work and I just can't, engage in much activity? Or am I just making up
there's probably a mixture of things. And I think if you were to ask almost every single person, are they busy? 9 times out of 10 people are going to say they're busy. Yeah, and that's irrespective of whether they're busy or not. If it's something that's important to you, you're always going to make time for it, whether that's working out, being healthy, and ultimately as well, to be the best version of yourself, you have to be healthy, you have to be fit. For you to be able to give the best version of yourself to, for example, to your clients as a dentist, you need to be fit and healthy yourself. Otherwise, if you're going to come into work and you're lethargic, you're tired, poor energy levels, how are you offering the best version of yourself to, as a dentist to your clients? And that's the same with any profession, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a dentist, whether you're an accountant, a teacher. You have to be able to look after yourself to be able to look after others, and that's, whether that's with clients or whether that's with your family or friends. And I think for a lot of the times, a lot of people are busy, but again, like I said, it just boils down to one thing only. If it's important to you, which your health should be the most important thing.
Definitely, man.
Because ultimately, without it, we can't really do anything else. And I think something that, if you were to ask a sick person, if they could trade in all the valuables in the world, they would trade in, everything for health. But I think sometimes when we do have health on our side, when we do have youth on our side, it's something that we unfortunately neglect over a period of time before it's too late, and then we're having to kind of claw it back with medication, hospital visits and so forth. You want to avoid that at all costs.
Definitely.
So in terms of being fit and healthy, irrespective of what profession, whether you're a dentist, alhamdulillah, over the last 7 years I've worked with a number of dentists, and a lot of them have struggled with, poor posture is one.
I can relate to that.
Getting overweight. Working absolutely crazy hours. I can imagine. Obviously, it's quite a lucrative industry. So obviously, I think a lot of people. Probably a lot of them suffer from burnout as well. I've seen a lot of dentists where they'll work 5, 6, 7 days a week, and if purely from a financial perspective, and that's not to say that's not the right thing or the wrong thing to do, but ultimately there needs to be a balance between being financially secure but also looking after yourself, because like I said, if you can work 5, 6, 7 days a week, but unfortunately you can only do that for a short period of time before you need to take a step back and say, right, I need to evaluate my family life, my health, and everything else as well with it.
Do you get those dentists that like open up to you as to why they burn out? Like, I know, like me speaking from experience, I can say to you, I'm working long hours, this and that, but then there could also be something else going on.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's a combination of like not just work, but something else in their life is affecting them?
That's a good question. I think a lot of people, unless you really delve in deeper, you can only go off what they're going to tell you ultimately. But generally, the longer I work with somebody, for example, generally a minimum time period that we'll work with somebody is 8 weeks. In 8 weeks, you're not really going to get a great insight into a particular individual. However, the longer you work with someone, the better results you're going to see, the better two-way working relationship from a coaching perspective there is as well. So I think, to answer the question, I think the longer you work with somebody, they generally will start to open up, and that there might be underlying conditions, they might have family issues, they might have other issues that are, that are slightly beneath the surface as well. So again, I suppose it's an individual thing. Some people are quite open and honest and say this is the issues that I have alongside the obvious, whereas with some others, they'll try and hide it and they don't want to you see me as a therapist as such. Ultimately, I'm not a therapist, but again, sometimes I think when you open up to someone, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Do you feel like as a coach, you deal with like giving people a good diet and nutrition plan as well?
Yeah.
When they open up to you, do you sit back and think, actually, you know what, this mental health side of thing, I don't know what I'm doing? Or do you genuinely just sit back and think, you know what, I actually want to help you?
Yeah.
The mental side of things.
I think, mental health is quite a popular topic at the moment, but ultimately it is. But generally speaking, physical health and mental health correlate with one another. Generally somebody who's fit, who's healthy, they're generally going to be mentally healthy as well, as a rule of thumb. Obviously, there's going to be a few anomalies in there, but generally speaking, physical health, mental health usually go hand in hand. However, I think for a lot of people, like I said, with dentists, for example, I think a lot of it is just burnout. And especially when you've started off quite young, they want to earn as much money as they possibly can, and that, especially if you've gone from to graduate at university, you want to kind of earn the big bucks, and that's fine. But again, just don't do it at the cost of your own health as well.
I've realised that myself as well. I think once you graduate, you just want to dive deep into work, and then you forget about your your physical health. I've done it. I'm currently doing it right now.
Okay.
Starting off in this practice in Leeds, and I'm just thinking I'm just too much into work. Progression that I sometimes do forget about my physical health, and I do feel it. Like you said, bad posture. You're sat down all day, literally just looking over a patient, and you're leaning over. Even as much as I try to correct it, and I'll just sit upright for like a couple of minutes, and I'll think that might actually help, but it never really does. But someone in my position, someone as a healthcare professional, what can I do? Let's say I don't want to hit weights. Because I'm just scared of getting bulky. I've done it before. I train my shoulders. I come into work. I can't even take a tooth out because my shoulder's burning out in the middle of an extraction. What can I do that's different to just like hitting weights, on a physical level?
To be fair, anything that's any form of physical activity, ultimately it just boils down to what it is that you enjoy. Not all of my clients will do resistance training. I've got certain clients that will play golf, certain clients that go hiking, certain clients. It ultimately just boils down to what it is that you enjoy. Based on obviously what you enjoy, we can cater the program based on what you enjoy. So like I said, resistance training from a longevity standpoint is probably the most underrated hack, because ultimately it's going to keep you fit, it's going to keep you healthy. But ultimately, if it's not something that you enjoy, then you have to find something it is that you enjoy. So, for example, for yourself, it might be playing football. I know you used to play football when we were younger.
I remember those days.
Many moons ago. You were very good as well. Fantastic left foot.
That's all I've got.
Fantastic left foot. I remember that actually. Even when you were a kid, I think you must have been about
That was a long
10
time
years
ago.
old,
Oh my God,
12
man.
years old, a long time ago. I
Like
remember
20 years ago,
yeah,
that
with,
was...
with the uncles.
Yeah.
I think you guys used to be on before us, but yeah, it's just, you know, if football's something that you enjoy, then maybe look at playing football a few more times. And it sounds really, really obvious, but, you know, being fit and healthy doesn't necessarily just mean going to the gym all the time. It's just finding something that you enjoy and consistently doing over a prolonged period of time. And I think that's the biggest thing. You know, you don't want to do something that feels like a chore. If it does, you're not going to do it, and it's not going to be sustainable for the long term either. So just finding something that you enjoy is genuinely the most crucial point.
I like what you said there, because you know I follow your story and I follow your posts on your on your Instagram, and lately you've been doing a lot more boxing.
Yeah.
And mashallah, I've seen your improvement, by the way. It's absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
And tennis regularly.
Yep.
One thing I like about you, Saqib, is your consistency. Like mashallah, like I know a lot of people, including myself, where you start something and we're just quick to like just stop it.
Yeah.
We're like, we just give up. Maybe it's this generation, maybe we're different to the older generation, but what made you just get up and think, you know what, I want to play tennis, I want to do a bit of kickboxing? Did you just get fed up with gym one day, or
no?
Are you still gymming?
No, it's a good question. So I still work out 3 times a week, pretty much every single week. But I think if you were to ask yourself what your goals now to what they were 5 years ago, they're probably going to be very different to now what they were 5 years ago. And I think as people, we generally, like, over time period, we evolve as individuals. And for me, when I was younger, you know, probably even a few years ago when I wanted to compete in bodybuilding, I competed, I placed, and I was happy with that. But it's not something that I wanted it to define me, but I wanted to challenge myself in other sports. And I thought, I want to be in a position whereby I can play any sport without, you know, feeling embarrassed or feeling overwhelmed by it. So tennis, kickboxing, it's 2 sports that I've never played in my entire life.
Never?
Tennis, ever.
Never touched it?
Never touched it.
Really?
Never. And I thought, you know what, it's something that I've wanted to do, so let's just take it up and just give myself a solid 12 to 18 months with it, see if I enjoy it, and then, you know, based on whether I enjoy it or not, I'll run with it. If not, you know, it's not an issue. But I think it's just ensuring that finding something that you enjoy, running with it, and if you enjoy it, it's like I said, it's just not going to be a chore. I think the biggest thing is people do things for the sake of doing it and not enjoying it.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I think for me, for example, kickboxing was a challenge. Tennis was a challenge.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
It was enjoyable as well.
Do you feel like your routine for gym has changed then? Because if you know, like I've played cricket after like years of hitting gym, and like, you know, I'm bowling. I love cricket as well.
I love cricket.
But I stopped playing because I remember I was playing one day and I was bowling and I just felt my shoulder go, and I was like, right, I don't know what this is. Is it for me hitting too much gym, or is it? And then you start thinking, if I want to do these sports, do I have to like take it easy with gym? Just imagine you've made years or even months of progress. And you start carrying, you know, you go back to the sport you love, football, tennis, cricket, which is involving a lot of cardio, a lot of movement. Does that mean that you then have to take it easy with gym? You have to lose a little bit of that muscle mass so then you can, you know, you can function a bit better in that?
It's not necessarily losing muscle mass as such, but I think it's more so just getting your body to adapt to whatever sport it is that you're going to be playing. So, for example, cricket, if that's not, for example, bowling, if it's not a motion that you've been, you know, familiar with for a long period of time. I used to play Thursday league cricket 6 years ago, and I actually tore my lat bowling. I tried doing exactly the same thing. Completely forgot that, you know, I'm not as how I was when I was 17, 18 years old, where I used to play under 17s, under 18s, and again, that was a mistake on mine. So I think it's just understanding that, you know, you just have to slowly transition yourself. You're not 16, 17 where you can play any sport and not have to worry about being injured. You have to slowly adapt and transition yourself back into that sport again.
Do you think that's more of like an age thing? Not that I'm saying that you're old, like mashallah, like, you know, you're still at an age where you're at peak, you know, physical, mental. But do you think age plays a role when it comes to stuff like that? Like, okay, you know what, I'll take it a bit easy with this sport because I don't want to get injured. Or do you think it's more just what we're doing in our life that we're more prone to injury now, if that makes sense?
I think people generally now, and it's something that I touched on previously, I think people generally now are more, they live very static lifestyles. You know, they'll, you know, whether you're working behind a desk or whether you're as a dentist or a doctor, generally you're not moving very much. And then generally people will come home and they'll turn on Netflix 6 till 8, 9 o'clock, and they'll be sat.
I think I'm one of them.
Yeah, and then repeat. I think I was looking at a study the other day, and it talked about average household in terms of the television that's being watched. On average, was 28 hours a week. You know, that's a considerable amount of period per household, and that's average
full day almost.
Across the entire UK. So I think when, you know, as human beings, we're not designed to just sit idle and do nothing. So I think just slowly, even if it's going for a walk, whether it's playing a sport that you enjoy and going for a walk with your missus or with your parents or your children, whatever it might be. I think that's things that unfortunately just overlooked now. People just don't do it. You know, when we were growing up now, I remember, like, for example, in the 6-week holidays, all we ever did was just play cricket, play football. That's all we ever did. Whereas now you see kids now, they're stuck behind the PlayStations and the PS5s, and they'll be stuck behind iPads and so forth. And they just generally now, you know, even across purely from a stats perspective now, 67% of people, you know, male and female now, are either overweight or obese.
Yeah.
So when you take that into account now, you know, all the other conditions that are going to be correlating to that are going to be just ridiculous. So yeah, in terms of being injured and things like that, like I said, it's just a case of just taking it easy and taking it slow with
what do you think has caused that? Like, do you think it's just this generation, we're just into
lazy
technology? Yes.
Lazy.
Yeah, or it could be just that. Yeah,
just lazy. Yeah. I think obviously a mixture of things. I think people eat a lot of rubbish as well. You know, people very rarely will. I feel like you touched on it earlier. A lot of people are busy, and they are genuinely busy. You know, I've got a few clients that are working multiple jobs, multiple businesses, 3-4 children, and they're very, very, very busy individuals. So for them, it's just a time thing. But again, times, you just have to prioritize things that are important to you. So, you know, if it means waking up 5 minutes earlier, making yourself a nice healthy breakfast, starting your day well, you know, how you start your day will have an impact on the rest of your day. You know, you start your day, wake up fresh, have your breakfast, start the rest of the day, and then you're productive for the rest of the day. Whereas if you wake up, you're rushing in the morning, you're generally going to be rushing throughout the whole day. And I think a lot of the times people are just busy for the sake of just being busy. But there are genuinely people that are very, very busy as well.
You know, you touched upon something there where you mentioned about food, you know, what we're eating.
Yep.
Now, I'm that type of guy where sometimes I like to diet.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't. So I like to enjoy my food as well. Now, I don't know if it's me, but is it something that we're eating that's affecting us physically as well? When I mean physically, I don't mean, we're getting fat with a big belly, but I want about just being tired.
Yeah.
Like, because I get that. And sometimes I like to blame work, I'm overworking myself. But then sometimes you just know, maybe at the end of the week, have I ate something, or like burgers, chips, could be fried food, whatever it is, that's made me feel like lethargic, tired. I just don't want to do anything. Is that a genuine thing, or am I actually really just overworked?
Probably a mixture of things, to be honest. I think one is obviously people are eating a lot of processed food compared to previously. That's one. So, you know, in terms of if you were to break down what you eat on a daily basis, you know, people will resort the food on just very easy, quick, convenient food. Very rarely is anything natural, anything healthy, and there's no genuine nutrition. Positive nutrition in terms of the daily food intake. So that will generally have an impact in terms of your energy levels, your productivity, your lethargy, and things like that. So you almost have to view your body as a car, for example. You know, you like cars.
Yeah.
I've always liked
cars. You love your cars as well, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, if you were to put you get a performance car, you know, they'll generally have a sticker on the side of the vehicle, say 99 run only. You put 95 run in there, it's not going to run at its best. You know, you view your health and your body even more important than you would do a car. You know, what you feed it is what you're going to get out. You know, if you feed it constant rubbish all the time, generally speaking, you're going to feel pretty rubbish all the time. You're going to feel tired. You know, food's high in sugar. You know, ideally from a sugar perspective as well, you want to keep your sugar levels relatively moderate throughout the course of the day. Whereas people will generally they won't eat anything, they'll spike the sugar levels, and then they'll crash, crash. Tea and biscuits, you know, you have a look at an average Asian household.
I think I'm one of them.
Average Asian household now, you always like samosas and stuff like that. But in terms of tea and biscuits, you know, even my own parents, as an example, and my aunties and uncles, you know, they'll have tea and biscuits all the time. And, you know, if you're not eating any quality food alongside it, it's just, you know, you're literally spiking insulin levels, and then obviously you're crashing right after. So, you know, I don't know if you've ever felt it before. It comes to like 1-2 o'clock and you're just gone. You know, you're tired. You feel like having a nap. But again, that
all the time.
A lot of that is just from, you know, poor food, and I think sleep as well. People don't emphasize the importance of sleep enough. You know, if you're not well rested, well slept on a night, you know, anywhere between like 6 and 8 hours solid sleep the night before will have a massive impact on the following day. So, you know, you could, when you're younger, when you're at uni and college, you can get away with sleeping until like 1, 2, 3 o'clock. You know, you can get away with it, but as you get older and you're working, you just can't get away with it anymore. You can't get away with it anymore.
I'm the same, honestly. Like, I can sleep like 8 hours and I wake up and I'm feeling even more tired. And I don't know what that is. Like, I just wake up and I'm thinking, right, okay, I've had a solid 8 hours. I should be feeling alert. But then when I sleep 3 hours,
Yeah.
it's like I'm hyperactive.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's like a biological reason to it, or if that's just me just thinking, with less sleep, you just, I don't know, is there like a spike in my adrenaline? Am I just feeling a bit rattled? And
100%.
suddenly I'm going to crash, so I'm just waiting for that moment.
You will crash. It probably might be earlier on or later on in the day, but you 100% will crash. But I think even in terms of, stress levels, cortisol levels, it's again something that is underplayed. And even if, for example, I get a lot of clients now, or advise a lot of clients to get, their internal blood test done to make sure all the health markers are in range, their natural test levels, for example, in men, your LDL, your HDL, to make sure everything's in range. Because ultimately, if it's not, you're second guessing in terms of how your internal health matters. Somebody could look amazing from the outside, but inside, everything could be completely out of sync.
Definitely.
And sometimes the issue that you have, for example, it's not a criticism of the NHS or anything like that, but you have a look at your internal health markers through your blood test. They don't ever they'll just show you a range. They won't ever actually show you what the optimal range is. They'll give you a really broad range. So even sometimes now, it's probably worthwhile just getting like a private blood test done to make sure all your health markers are in range and where they need to be. And that's something that I recommend.
So let's just say there was like an anomaly in that. So I take a blood test and, these markers are out of place. Does that mean, because I know what people are like out there, straight away they just want drugs.
Yeah.
Like some form of drug therapy to help with that. Yeah. So does that mean that, okay, it's out of place, right? I need to go to the doctors, I need to get a prescription, I need a form of medication. Or can something in your life, like you mentioned before, your lifestyle, your work, or whatever it is, can that actually correct it?
I'd say 90% of the time is through actually changing your lifestyle.
All right, yeah.
The other 10% is probably through medication. I think a lot of people will resort to, using the medication as a first form of therapy. It's not. As a doctor, really, and it's not a criticism of doctors, I work with a lot of doctors, is that really they should be ensuring that, going through almost like a consultation with every single patient to ensure that rather than prescribing them every medication under the sun, ensure that, how often are they working out, how often what's their sleep look like, what's their stress levels look like, what does their nutrition look like, without actually understanding any of them, prescribing medication at the first instance doesn't really make any sense. It's almost like a quick fix.
Yeah. So what I've seen, Saqib, on social media quite a lot lately is a lot of people that slate, like people who go out, maybe buy a packet of bread.
Yeah.
It could be like a Warburton's, and they're just like absolutely slating these people. Why are they getting this type of bread? Throw it in the bin. What do you think about people like that use social media to, I wouldn't say, it's up to them, that's their opinion, but there's probably someone out there that's really trying, and that's probably eating that bread that, doesn't see it as a bad thing, but, they're trying. Do you think it's good to do that as a way to raise awareness, or is it just them just trying to get followers and likes?
Controversy sells, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's true.
We live in a society whereby the more controversial you are, the more views you get, the more likes you get.
Yeah.
Allowed to get away with, bad-mouthing people, criticising others. But yeah, I think the fitness industry is just a weird one. I remember when I first started out 7 years ago, and I remember started coaching, it wasn't even really a big thing. No one had really heard of it. Whereas now, especially over the last kind of 2 or 3 years now, without naming anyone, I don't want to badmouth anyone, but there's a lot of fitness influencers, coaches out there that literally will just do anything for a few views. So yeah, without mentioning any names in particular, they're where they're throwing food in the bin. Poverty's at an all-time high, yet people are happy to throw food in the bin, and it's just bananas to me. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, unfortunately, controversy sells, and I think it will continue to do so. People are trying to be more and more outspoken, and that seems to work well for them. But it's not a route that I'd ever want to go down or encourage people to go down. Because like I said, people are trying to make small changes. Not everybody's going to go from 0 to 100 overnight. Everybody's on a different journey. Everyone's on a different path, but they're all just trying to get better by the day. So yeah, for some people, they might, cutting out bread might not be a viable option in them on day one. But whereas, if you're a year, 2 years down the line, bread's probably not something that you've even considered. So yeah, people throwing food in a bin is just it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I've seen that a lot. You know what? It's funny though, because I've seen that with dentists that actually like to make posts or videos, or even just leave comments about other dentists, dental practices, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't know what they're trying to achieve. Are they trying to Are they genuinely calling you out on something bad that you've done, or are they just like using a platform to, gain an extra few followers or gain popularity to just put you down?
I think so.
There's a lot of dentists out there that are doing really well. Social media has become a new thing. Let's be very honest. No one, like, you should read a book. Everybody reads a book. But nowadays, the first thing that people do, if you want to go get a haircut, you want to go to some restaurant, what's the first thing that you do? You pick up your phone, you check Instagram and TikTok, and it's the same as your business and my business.
100%.
Do you feel like there's people out there, that look at that and they think, look at these guys, they're trying to become famous and popular, and maybe there's an older generation that just hates it, or someone out there just can't get familiar with technology, but they just don't like the fact that you're gaining popularity. Do you think that's a big thing?
I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because there are people that are genuinely very good at what they do, and they're just showcasing their work, whether, for example, from a dentistry standpoint or from a coaching standpoint. For me, it's about helping as many people get into great shape. With yourself, obviously, I presume, obviously, with the composite bonding, showing before and afters and genuinely transforming the smile and things like that. Whereas I think for the older generation that don't really understand how social media works, for them it's probably a negative thing. But I do think a lot of people within the industry, whether it's dentistry or whether it's fitness, I think a lot of people will criticize others just because they see them as a threat as well. So I think, unfortunately, there's two sides of the fence to that, unfortunately. So I think, I don't know if you find it as well. I found it, especially over the last 3 or 4 years, where a lot of people will leave negative comments. They're having a dig at you for no reason whatsoever, and you click on their profile, there's no face, there's not even a name on there, and it's just like, a lot of these people, I think we live in a world where people will hide behind a computer or a laptop and say things that they wouldn't say in a million years to your face. And I think if somebody's got a genuine, you touched on it there, if for example, you've done change somebody's smile, and if there's something that there's a mistake that you've genuinely made, and if somebody's privately messaged you and said, look, Asif, you've done something not quite right here, you'd appreciate that. You'd probably take that on board. Because ultimately you want to be the best at what you do. It's the same with myself, but I think a lot of people will just, I do a lot of transformation. They'll be like, oh, that guy must be on steroids. I'm like, he's not on steroids. There's not one client ever in 7 years that advised to take anything that is illegal or unnatural. So it's just, I think sometimes a lot of their own insecurities, they'll try and highlight their own insecurities and push them onto someone else. So, for example, as a dentist, maybe they're not particularly good at what they do either, so they'll probably have a dig at you because they wish they could genuinely do what you do. So I think it's probably an element of insecurity there as well.
You touched upon something there, steroids. Yeah. Big topic, hot topic.
Massive topic.
The first thing that people do when they see someone in shape. Now, I used to think people would just say you're on steroids if you're massive. Yeah. But now you can just be someone with a low % body fat, and straight away they're like, oh, look, all those veins, steroids. Yeah. Now, mashallah, you got a good physique, Saqib. You must get that a lot. Yeah. How do you answer that question?
To be fair, when I think before I used to take it personally, but I think as years have gone, I just learned to kind of play it off as a joke and just have a bit of a laugh with them. There was a guy who messaged me the other day, somebody saying, "What cycle are you on?" So I literally just sent him a picture of me on a bicycle.
I think I've seen that.
I just sent him a picture, and then he actually found it hilarious. So I thought, rather than me having a dig at him or blocking him and things like that, I'll just have a bit of joke with him. I think the reality is, again, it touched on, a lot of people will not actually take into account the hard work that's put in behind, being healthy, being fit. And to be fair, getting into shape, once you've been, mashallah, you were in really good shape as well when you were younger as well. Getting into shape isn't that difficult, but staying in shape for the rest of your life is more difficult. And I think for me, as a coach myself, my biggest thing is I don't want somebody to get into shape for 8 weeks or 12 weeks or 16 weeks. I want them to be in a position whereby they get into shape once and they're in that shape for the rest of their lives, and be healthy and fit and the best version of themselves. But in terms of me passing it off as, I don't really see it as a big thing. It's just an easy dig. And a lot of people, if they will never, like I said, they will never say it to your face. They will just say it behind on TikTok or on Instagram, and they'll just do it with a fake profile. So I'm not really paying attention to it, because it's just they're pretty stupid.
So those kind of people that say it, clearly they've got no knowledge, because even myself that doesn't know a lot about gym, compared to yourself, everybody knows that if you take steroids, it's not just going to make you big, There's a lot more factors to it. Now, even if I'm not, by the way, I'm not saying to people go out and take steroids.
Yeah, yeah.
But even if you took it, yeah, if you didn't have a good diet, it ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
Now,
100%.
is that just what people say just to make it seem like, like don't, like if someone's taken steroids, let's say, and they don't want someone to know, they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I put all that hard work in. Like, is that genuine, or do steroids actually just make them the way they are?
No, steroids, to be fair, will have a positive impact in terms of, so for example, let's say you're putting in the work in terms of your resistance training, your nutrition, your sleep, all of them other variables need to be in place to ensure that the steroids actually have an impact. So in terms of, will the steroid, ensure that your diet sorted? No. Will it help you train harder? Probably not. Will it help you recover quicker? Yes, it will help you recover quicker. But that's the only thing. Will it help with protein synthesis? Yes, it will. But other than that, it's not really going to have a direct impact. It's not going to, you could take all the steroids in the world, but if your diet's absolutely horrendous, it's not going to have an impact at all, So I think a lot of people won't actually maximize their initial resources enough before they resort to going down that route. And, you see it now, you go on social media and everyone wants to have the best. Even myself, I look at somebody's teeth and wow, he's got amazing teeth, or she's got amazing teeth. And I think a lot of people now will say, okay, well, I'll just go to Turkey, or I'll just go get my teeth done. And it's the same with somebody's body. They'll look at somebody's physique picture, they'll be like, I want to look like that. But they won't see, okay, you can't do it overnight. It will take some time. It might take you 3 months, it might take you a year, it might take you 2 years. I think the difference that it is with your health and your body is that it's not something that you can go to a dentist and get rectified ASAP. But I suppose it's the same with, having poor teeth. If I don't look after my teeth now, my teeth will start falling out, and I'll have fillings left, right and centre. You have to look after your teeth. But in terms of getting that perfect smile, then I can potentially either come to yourself or go to Turkey or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
You touched upon something there where you said go to Turkey. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you've seen it, some woman went abroad, and I think she went to Turkey to get liposuction.
Yeah.
And then on the plane back, I think she got sepsis, and she must have died on the plane back. Something happened. Now, I understand people out there have genuine insecurities about their weight, and they're looking for a quick fix. You have people out there that just look at a picture of like Arnold Schwarzenegger from back in the day, and they think, I want to look like that, and they'll take steroids. But people who are overweight, got a lot of fat, they're very insecure. Most of them anyway, they want to quickly lose that fat.
Yep.
And in a situation like that, how would you approach that for a client that's like, I want to go abroad, I want to get I want to get liposuction done? Because I get that a lot as a dentist for teeth.
Yeah.
Do you ever get that, and how would you approach that?
I think over the last, since I started, I've probably had like maybe 2 or 3 clients that have maybe either looked at resorting to that or contemplating that. But it's just, I think we live in a time where everyone wants everything straight away. They don't want to put in the work, they don't want to put in the effort, they don't want to put in the hard yards to get there. And for me, it's just a quick fix. It's just a get out clause. You've not actually earned that body. You've not actually earned that physique. And me on a personal level, I don't criticize people that do it, but me on a personal level, I don't see that that's the right thing to do or the right way out. So if somebody was to come to me and say, look, I'm going to take you on and get liposuction done, unless they've got an underlying health condition, and that's the only way that they need to get rid of the excess weight or excess fat, then yeah, absolutely. But otherwise, what an absolute
It's just
waste
a quick
of time.
way out, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a waste of time. But I think, I suppose that's why I think there's a lot of connotations with steroids, is that, they'll think, if I take steroids, I'll get into great shape. You're still going to have to work unbelievably hard to actually make the most of that. It's not a miracle drug. You don't take it and then all of a sudden look like Arnold Schwarzenegger overnight. It doesn't quite work that way.
It's true. And you mentioned that previously, it's not just the physical work that you put in, but also, when I mean physical, I'm on about pushing weights and doing exercise, but it's also what you eat. Now, I'm the kind of guy, like I mentioned before, that I like to diet and I don't like to diet, but when I diet, I kind of don't know what I'm doing. I just look at something, I'm like, grilled chicken, I'll have that. It looks healthy, I'll just eat it. Whether it's from a takeaway or it's from home. Now, is there anything wrong with someone that just says, you know what, I just want to try eat clean?
Yep.
Or do you have to weigh everything? Do I have to sit there with a weighing scale? Because I'm not going to lie to you, I'm that kind of guy where I haven't got time. Maybe that's just my excuse. But am I still going to see progress by just saying, I just eat clean, stay away from a bit of sugar and carbs? Or do I genuinely need a plan and structure it?
I think two things with it. One, are you going to see an impact from just cutting out sugar and cutting out, the fizzy drinks and cutting out, extra amount of takeaways? 100% you'll see a difference, and you'll see a positive impact in terms of your health, your body composition, your energy levels, and your productivity as well. But if you're wanting to completely change your lifestyle and how you view food and how you view nutrition, then I think that unfortunately the word diet has negative connotations with that word. People think the word diet and they think I have to have dry chicken and broccoli like 3 times a day. I couldn't think of
That's me, man.
anything worse. Even with myself, even with a vast majority of clients that I work with, I actually want them to have a social life. I want them to eat out a few times a week, whether it's at restaurants, whether it's at takeaways. I actually encourage that, because then they've got a healthy balance. Having chicken and broccoli, or having a super clean diet, or having a super restrictive diet, that's not going to work. It might work for like a week or 2 weeks, then after I think I can't be bothered with that. It's just the absolute waste of my time, because you don't enjoy it. But if you've got a balance of whereby you're eating food that is healthy maybe 80% of the time or 90% of the time, then you've got that 10% or 20% say, right, do you know what, I want to eat a burgerism. I want to eat a burger. For example, I want a really nice a burger once or twice a week. That's fine. You have that once or twice a week, but you don't want to be having a burger every single day of the week. You're going to feel pretty rubbish. You're going to feel pretty lethargic. So I think just finding that balance. I think people have that all or nothing approach. I either have to be on a diet 100% or sack it, I'll just eat whatever I want. But you can have a balance between the two, and that way you can still get the goals that you're aiming towards, but without sacrificing your social life, sacrificing the foods that you enjoy. And for me, even when I, for example, do consultations with every single client, I try and extract what foods that is that they enjoy, what foods that they don't enjoy, how many times they go out, these things. So I try and incorporate. So for example, when it comes to programming for a particular individual, I'll base all of that based on obviously their lifestyle, their food habits, their allergies, things like that. Because like I said, for me, it's about ensuring that it's sustainable for a long period of time, rather than just seeing it as like a quick fix for like 4 weeks, 8 weeks. Because the reality is, it's a waste of a client's time, waste of my time, waste of your time. If you lose maybe a stone in 8 weeks or 12 weeks, but then you put it back on again, that's just a waste of your time. But you'd rather lose a stone over maybe 3 months or 4 months, but then you just keep it off, and then you're healthy, you're fit, and everything else that comes with it. And you found that balance. And I think it's just more of an educational thing in terms of nutrition, understanding that there's not good food, there's not bad food, there's just food. But it's just in moderation.
I think that's the thing. It's just that education side of things. It's just, I think nowadays, well, one thing that I've experienced for myself is that I'm not afraid now to get that professional advice. Don't get me wrong, 10 years ago, if you had asked me, don't want a personal trainer, I'd be, I'm not paying extra for that. I'm not paying extra for this. But now I'd pay extra. It's nothing to do with money. It's got nothing to do with, you know what, let's say you're earning X amount and now you can afford it. It's about seek professional help. If someone's got knowledge, learn from it. And I think that's key. And one thing I like about you, Saqib, is that when you talk about your diet plans, I wouldn't even call them diet plans.
It's not a diet plan.
It's not a diet plan. No. I think people got it in their head. They'll go into Strictly Body Gains, go into your Instagram, your website, and they'll be like, oh, it's a diet plan. But it's not, because, mashallah, you care so much about that person. And the great thing is, it's bespoke to that person. It's not like a copy and paste. You're a dentist, but you're like every dentist out there. So I'm just going to copy and paste every single plan and send it out. You tailor the lifestyle, the diet, like how you spoke about food there. My fear was, if I go to someone, they're just going to be like, just eat broccoli and fried chicken. And I'm going to struggle to get it past my throat. I'm going to be drinking a lot of water, chucking sauce down my throat, trying to get a bit of flavour.
You're going to hate it.
Exactly.
You're going to absolutely hate it.
What inspired you to do that though, Saqib? Like, what made you think, I want to focus more on that?
I think for me is, when you were growing up, people would like want to eat out of Tupperware. They'd feel like, you need to have all this food. And then I realized as time went on, I was like, you don't need to do this. You genuinely don't need to do this. It's just a lack of education, so understanding that as long as you're eating relatively healthy for the vast majority of the time, and again, in terms of if you to have a look at other coaches or anybody else, they'll say, oh well, Asif, you need to have 6 meals a day. You haven't got time to have 6 meals a day. There's not enough hours in the day for you to do all your work, spend time with your family and everything else, and have 6 meals a day. It's just not going to work. And I think there's a lot of like myths and old wives' tales from back in the day that have just been there forever. You can't eat after 6 p.m. you have to have 6 meals a day. It's going to boost your metabolism. Absolute nonsense. You have to have chicken and broccoli. You have to have, I'm trying to think of other all wives' tales, but they couldn't be further from the truth. For example, myself, I'll eat 3 meals a day. Breakfast, lunch and dinner. That's all I eat. Breakfast, lunch and dinner every single day, and that's all I eat. I don't feel like I need to eat 4, 5, 6 meals a day. I'll still get my required calorie intake over the space of the day, but it's just finding that balance. And in terms of, you touched on it earlier, in terms of, do I need to measure my food? I think to begin with, I think a lot of people actually underestimate how much they actually eat. But the good thing is with measuring your food, especially to begin with early doors, is that it just gives you a good gauge and a good figure. Okay, well, this is what 200 grams of chicken looks like. This is what 200 grams of beef looks like. This is what 200 grams of lamb looks like. This is what 150 grams of rice looks like. Once you measure it for the first kind of 2 or 3 days, you don't need to measure it after that, because you've got an idea in terms of this way is that. You've got a good gauge. The last time I probably measured food was probably a long time ago, but I've got a good idea. I've got a good indication in terms of that's 100 grams, that's 100 grams, that's 100 grams. So yeah, in terms of measuring food and things like that, you just need to do it, especially early doors, just to give you a good gauge, and then after that you won't necessarily need to do it.
That's wicked. I like how you merge everything together. You focus on yourself, and you're a perfect example. There's a lot of coaches out there. I'm not saying that you got to look at them and they got to look like a bodybuilder, but people just think that. They think, oh, if this guy's going to teach me, he needs to look like he competes. And mashallah, you've done that. You've competed. Now, did you do that thinking you want to become a professional bodybuilder? Like, what made you do that? What made you wake up and think, because you got to put your body through a lot for that.
Yeah, that was tough.
Like, that's tough. Explain to me like how tough it was for you and mentally.
To be fair, you've known each other for a long time. Alhamdulillah, Huddersfield's a small place. And when I first started training, I remember there's hardly anyone even really training at that moment in time. There's maybe a few people, but it's not as popular and as common as it is now. But I just thought, I've trained my whole life. Let me just compare to see how I get on against some of the best guys in the UK. Like, for example, you're a dentist. You don't want to test yourself just in LS1, for example. You want to test yourself against some of the best dentists in the UK to say, right, let me see how am I as good as I think I am. So I thought, I'll test myself, and I'll test myself at a national show. So I did. Set out, thought I'm going to compete, and then that prep was tough, very, very tough. That was from home during COVID time as well.
During COVID as well?
Yeah, during COVID as well. So I literally had
so how did you train and compete without a gym?
Yeah,
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So I think again, it just showcases as well as that it dispels that myth that you need to go to the gym to have an amazing physique. I didn't have a gym. I had a set of dumbbells, a barbell, and some resistance bands. That was the vast majority of probably 80-90% of it. So in terms of, again, dispelling that myth, you need to go to the gym. Like, as soon as I finish, and even now I have access to the gym, I've got all the equipment in the world, but my physique in COVID was better than it is now.
That's mental.
Like, if you just process that for a second, that doesn't actually really
that
make
to
any
me
sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
I'll be very honest.
But it just shows that in my mind, I thought, this is all the equipment that I've got. I just need to maximize it as best as I possibly can. I need to give it my 100%. Sometimes when you have access to too many things, I remember when we were growing up, you had 4 channels. You put on the TV. You might have been a bit younger. You had 4 or 5 channels at the time. You could only watch them 4 or 5 channels now. You go onto Netflix now. A lot of people, you'll go on Netflix now, and people are searching on Netflix for like an hour and a half before they actually find some of it. By the time they found something, they're going to bed.
And the food's cold.
The gym's the same thing. People are going to the gym and like, wow, I've got so much equipment, but they don't actually use any bit of that equipment properly. But if you've only got 2 or 3 machines, you're actually going to maximize them 100%. You're going to give it 100% intensity. It's the same with the COVID example. I had minimal equipment. I thought, I'm going to give it my 100% based on the equipment that I've got, and I'll see what comes of it. And alhamdulillah, lo and behold, in that time period during COVID was the best, alhamdulillah, my physique's ever been. Whereas now, I'm happy to, we've got obviously slightly different goals now, but it just shows that you can achieve what you want just based on your mindset is absolutely everything. And if you're focused towards it, you'll achieve it. So in terms of competing, alhamdulillah, it was good. I thought I'll see how I compare. I did well, and then I thought, I've just ticked it off, done. What's next? So now, inshallah, in the future, maybe look to maybe compete at tennis, or maybe compete at kickboxing, or whatever it might be. So just, again, it's just challenging yourself. I think a lot of people just get in their own comfort zone and will never, as they get older, they think, I'm too old for this, or, you rather than focusing on what your age is, focus on being better rather than being older. You know, people use age as a reason to be ill or be tired or feeling lethargic, but you're just telling yourself that.
Definitely. You mentioned about, we've come from a small town.
Yeah.
Now, it's a positive thing because, mashallah, when you do so well, everybody knows who Saqib is. Because everybody does.
Yeah.
You can go around. They might not even know Saqib. They know Strictly Body Gains, SBG, that's what you're called.
Yeah.
Now, was there any challenges coming from a small town and doing what you're doing in social media, bodybuilding? Because sometimes being from a small town, people think, oh, what's he doing? Like, he needs to just stick to being at home and go to work, and what is all this nonsense? Because people do that.
Yeah.
It's in the big city where they give you the bit of drive, but in a small town, sometimes you feel a little bit restricted, and that could really put someone down. Did you ever feel like that was happening to you at any point?
I think it boils down to the people that you have around you. Like, alhamdulillah, I had a good network of friends, close friends, that they were really supportive, and I think got quite thick skin, so I didn't really pay attention to people that like said negative things like, why are you coaching? What does coaching even do? I'm just gonna go use a PT. I'm like, they couldn't quite grasp what it is that I did. Even now, sometimes people are like, buy you a PT? I'm like, no, I've not done PT ever. Like, I've got no desire to want to do it. And for me, I want to be able to be in a position where I can help as many people as I possibly can, not necessarily just in Huddersfield. I don't want to confine myself just to Huddersfield. I want to be accessible to anyone, anywhere in the world, and irrespective of whether I'm abroad or whether I'm here, I'm accessible. And for me, that was a big thing. And you don't want to do things that everyone else is just doing. You want to do it, and then you want to commit to it wholeheartedly, and you want to be the best at what you do. I presume, obviously, you as a dentist,
definitely,
you do composite bonding. Actually, you've built a really good reputation. You want to be known as, okay, there's loads of dentists out there. There's loads of PTs out there. There's loads of coaches out there. But for me, I just want to be known as a coach that can help a lot of people get them into best shape of their life without sacrificing their social life. Busy parents, busy working professionals, understanding that they can have a balance. So yeah, in terms of any negatives, I wouldn't say really any negatives. I think sometimes, when you're posting maybe physique pictures and things like that, that's probably something that I used to post quite a lot. A lot of people say, oh, why are you posting physique pictures and you shouldn't do that and things like that, which is understandable, especially within our community. But they're probably the biggest challenges. Otherwise, people might have said a few negative comments, but I didn't really pay any attention to it. What about yourself?
I think what it is when it comes to doing social media. I think prior to that it was all right, but social media, you do get right at the start where people are like, oh, you're putting yourself there, everyone can see your face, but for me, I had that goal. My goal was educate people about dentistry, number one. Now I've slowly transitioned into bringing a little bit of humor or just a different sort of personality into
You're showing them who Asif is.
Exactly, and it's worked because a lot of people that come in, honestly, when they see me, they're like, you're literally the same as you are on social media. I think a lot of people, exactly, because a lot of people change for social media. So I think if you stick to, showing people how honest you are and your personality, sense of humor, whatever it may be, as long as that is who you are off the camera, that's the most important thing.
I think mine is as time has gone on, as I got older as well, I want to make it less about me. I want to make it more about everyday people, just to showcase that, irrespective of what challenges you face, what obstacles you face, if you were to ask me what type of people I work with literally every profession, from housewives to couriers, accountants, dentists, doctors, teachers, plumbers, joiners, every single profession that you can think of, and everybody's routine, their lifestyle, goals are all completely different. No two people are the same. And for me, it's just ensuring that if you commit, let me lead, I will get you in the best shape of your life without having to spend hours upon hours at the gym, hours upon hours eating food that you don't enjoy. But it's just like I said, it's just that education piece. And I think once you're able to hold their hand through the early stages, provide them the support that they need, then you're almost saying, right, do you know what, you're in a position whereby you're self-sufficient now. You can be the healthiest and the fittest version of yourself. And I think especially with everybody has different challenges that they face. For example, I had a young mum. She had 5 kids, and she lost just about 3.5, 4 stone.
Wow.
So it was completely life-changing for her. So again, it's not the value add just for her, it's the impact that it's going to have on her children. Her children are going to see her mum that's healthy, that's fit. Now she's got 5 children. When the children are now seeing her mum eat healthy, lead a healthy lifestyle, that's a positive influence on them. You know, the child's only gonna go off what their parents see and do. You know, if the child sees their parent eating rubbish, sat behind watching ARY news, having samosa after samosa, and then having tea and biscuits, and
that's gonna be me.
Tea and biscuits and the rest of it, then ultimately the child's generally going to follow that route. But if the child sees, you know, the mum saying like, let's go out for a walk, and the dad saying, let's go out for a walk, let's go play cricket in the back garden, let's go play football, that impact is massive. It genuinely molds that child as they grow older. Like, even for myself, I remember when I used to play cricket when I was younger, my dad used to come to nearly like all my cricket games when I was younger, and my dad was like one of the only dads that used to sit there and watch through the whole cricket game.
That's amazing.
And a cricket game is a long game.
A long game, man.
Whereas the other parents, they wouldn't watch. But for me, I used to get a genuine buzz out of it that my dad would watch. Like, it gave me an extra bit of like
That's
motivation at the time. And I think as parents now, you know, you want to be in a position whereby you're leading by example for your children, because if you're not, you know, a lot of people now, they say like, oh, I've come back, I'm so busy. They'll stick the kid with an iPad. He'll be sat literally like a zombie for like 2 hours. Like, with a hunchback. With a hunchback, and no offense, but they'll be overweight, they'll be unfit. Then after they finish from the iPad, they'll go straight to the PlayStation. They'll finish, they'll have 2 or 3 crisp packets, chocolate bar, and they're going to bed. Like, what are you teaching your child? But if you were fit and healthy, you wouldn't resort to having to give that child an iPad or a PlayStation. You'd be like, okay, let's go out, let's go play some football, let's play some cricket, let's go play a sport that we enjoyed. So I think people just don't necessarily view a transformation as just getting into shape, but view that as the impact that it has on those around you. Alhamdulillah, you know, even over the last few years, I've had it where one guy's approached me, got into shape. He's told his missus has told her sister, her sister's told her friends. Before you know it, there's like 8 or 9 people have all started that transformation journey. Not because the initial guys got into great shape, but because the impact that it's had on his like confidence, the way he conducts himself, the clothes that he wears. You'll see it as well. You know, when you change somebody's smile, you know,
changes everything.
It changes everything. You know, they'll go from like literally like that all the time, but they'll be showing the teeth all the time.
Even the facial structure changes, like, which is weird though, because like the wrinkles disappear. Look, I referred my friend to you, who's a dentist.
He's doing amazing.
Really good and you know what, Saqib,
he's doing amazing.
Absolutely amazing. So I spent 5 years, and we studied abroad. So, and he was quite overweight, and he'll admit it. Like, I'll say it to him all the time. And I remember I went to see him, this is going back about 6 months ago, and we went to Manchester. So we went to a mosque, and he was like, oh, I'll meet you at the mosque. And then I literally walked past him on the way out, get my shoes, I walk outside, and I'm like, where are you? So I was with another friend. He was like, he's right inside. You just walked past him. I was like, that's not him. And when I seen him for about a good hour, I just couldn't, like, it just felt, but you know what it is? It's not that, oh, you lost a bit or you look different. Like, he looked different. I didn't recognize him. And I spent 5 years with him. Yourself as well. Honestly, like, he lost so much weight. So clearly what you talk about is, you know, the proof is in the pudding. You know, mashallah,
100%. I think a lot of people will, you know, even with like social media now, like, so unfortunately, like, controversy sells, it gets loads of views. But for me, it's not a route that I want to go down. It's just helping people. And like I said, you know, even if you have like a scroll through, you'll see like transformation. And sometimes a picture only shows you so much. A picture only shows you like the before and after, but it doesn't show you. It's very difficult to put into words the impact that it has in their life, the way that they carry themselves. You know, they'll feel confident wearing clothes that they feel comfortable in. You know, you see a lot of people now, they'll just wear like really oversized, like baggy clothing, and you ask them why, they'll be like, oh, just because I like it. But really deep down, if you were to delve in, you touched on it earlier, will they open up? I had one client, I'm not going to mention who it is, but I had one client, and he was very overweight, unfortunately, at the time. And he said, Saqib, I literally had the 5 of the same black tops, and I would wear the same tops over and over and over again. And he said, and I asked him why, and he said, because I didn't feel confident wearing any other colour. I just wear that same top, but in different, same top, but 5 different variations of it. Because I didn't feel confident. But since he lost the weight, he lost 4 stones. Wow. Completely changed his body composition, his health, his physique, and the rest of it. But it's the impact that he buys like nice clothes, you know, designer stuff. And for me, like, it genuinely makes me so happy, because it's not just about the weight loss. It's about, this guy's like a completely different man. His missus will say the same thing. She was also a client. So his missus the same thing, and she's like, oh, it looks amazing. So again, it's the impact that it has. Honestly, I can't emphasize it enough. You know, I touched on it on a post earlier today. You know, people will spend, you know, £20-25 a week on a haircut every single week. I don't know how much your barber charges. Mine charges, I think it's about 20 quid now.
Yeah.
They'll charge like 20 quid a week. You'll go for a trim every single week. I go for a trim every single week.
Yeah.
Go for a trim every single week. You know, over the year, it's like £1,000, £1,200.
Yeah, no,
It's a lot of money. But when it comes to investing in themselves, you know, they'll think twice. Oh, bro, it's too expensive. Or it's too expensive. I'm like, mate, you spent £1,200 for a haircut through the space of the year. That haircut only made you look good for about a day, and then after that, it goes back to normal. It's like a short-term transformation. It's the same, I presume, with teeth. You know, once you sort somebody's teeth out, you know, the impact that it's going to have is massive. You know, they're going to be more confident. You know, they're not going to be as shy. It's the same with your body and your health.
Thing. Like you mentioned, you know, the guy wearing that black t-shirt, it's the same with teeth in a way where people are like, oh, I smile in a particular way. I don't like showing my teeth. But then in their head, something's building up where they need to come in and sort something out, whether it's the teeth or, you know, the physical, like the appearance. And then eventually they make that decision and they're like, right, okay, I want to do it. And then they regret not doing it earlier. So it's a common thing that I see. But you know what, Saqib, to end it off, what's your goals now in the future for yourself or Strictly Body Gains? You know, mashallah, you've achieved so much. I've seen the results. I love your Instagram. I'm always checking up on your Instagram and your videos. So not just your before and after pictures, but I love the videos. The fact that you're engaging in, you know, like actually talking about the client's journey. You're showing it on my friend as well. Yeah. Mashallah. Yeah. And everybody knows who Strictly Body Gains is. Are you happy to just keep things as it is? Do you have something else on the side? Maybe you don't need to mention it, but or is there something about Strictly Body Gains that you think, right, okay, I need to take this to another level?
It's a good question. I think for me, with Strictly Body Gains, I just want to be in a position whereby you can help just as many people as possible, you know, whether it's through education, whether it's through accountability, and just ensure that, you know, irrespective of what position you're in, I can help. You know, whether you're just a beginner, whether you're somebody who's been training for the entirety of their life, it doesn't matter what position you're in, I can help and I will support you and coach you through every single step of that journey. But in terms of my own goals, I think for me, just to continue to grow Strictly Body Gains, and alhamdulillah, I've got clients, you know, quite a few countries now, but it's just continuing to grow that. And I think for me, if I'm able to do that and have a positive impact on as many people as I possibly can, alhamdulillah, that'll make me very, very happy. Sometimes, you know, I wake up and I'll see a message from a client and they were like, oh, I had a client message this morning saying she'd gone to her parents and her mum said that it was the most confident she looked and felt. For me, that genuinely makes me so happy, and it's just knowing that you've had a positive impact on their life and you've been part of their journey. So if I can help as many people as I possibly can, then alhamdulillah, for me that's more than enough.
Give yourself a lot of credit, because you're saying that if you can, and you have, you know, you've done it for hundreds of people, local people, worldwide people. So mashallah, you should give yourself a lot of credit. Wicked, I love it. But yeah, thank you so much, Saqib, for coming all this way. You know, it's not easy getting to Lee City Centre, but you made it.
No, honestly, thank you, finally as well, thank you so much for having me in, just on a personal level as well, mashallah, from where you were younger to now as well, mashallah, it's awesome to see you always being yourself. And I think in a time where we are now, seeing somebody who's honest to themselves is a big thing, especially when they're on social media. A lot of people put on an act, you don't. I can verify that myself.
I appreciate that, man.
And I think people that genuinely do that will always go far in life.
And that's why I wanted you on.
Personal and on a business standpoint as well.
I appreciate that, Saqib. That's why I wanted you on here. We both have gone to like the same high school.
Yep.
We've been brought up in the same area. We know the same people, and mashallah, we've seen each other grow. And inshallah, we will push each other and strive to be even bigger and better. Even if I just stay at the same level and you stay at the same level, as long as, you know, mashallah, we recognize each other's work and we thrive off each other's.
I think the biggest thing as well is that you just set out to want to be the best in your industry. I think for me, you touched on that goal. What was my goal? For me, I want to be the best in my industry.
Definitely.
And I presume, obviously, as a cosmetic dentist, you want to be the best in your industry.
100%.
And I think if you continue to aim and to push towards that, then, you know, even if you fall slightly short, you know, at least it's as a positive goal. You don't want to be average. Definitely. You know, you want to be the best. So
definitely.
But not in a you know, obsessive manner, but in a healthy manner as well.
Yeah. But that's it, man. Inshallah, success to us all. But yeah, wicked.